At this time of the Quick Speed Shop, I got the hood up on the 40 Mercury. We're working on the fuel system. I got 3 Rochester 2-jet carburetors. We're running a new fuel system, new fuel pump, new fuel lines back to the tank, and we're starting it right now. I'm a professional, don't try this at home. Right, bam, we're back at it here. Last time, if you're following along, I was working on getting the fuel tank in the back, getting ready to get hooked up, and I'm building a new fuel system here. Last video, there was an AC condenser, and an AC compressor down here that I removed because it bolted to the fuel pump boss, and I wanted to put a mechanical GM pump back on here. I've got a temporary one in here, but I've actually changed my mind, and I'm going to do a different style factory GM pump. I'll show you that in a second, but what I've done is originally this car had an electric fuel pump in the back and a fuel cell. I've gone to a Mustang gas tank and I'm using a mechanical pump now. And I've turned the fuel line around already. This line used to go out the back and down. You can see the remnants of it here. Used to go back to the electric pump. But I've turned it around now so I can run a hook up the mechanical pump here. I've removed the AC compressor, which is over here, that was bolted on to the fuel pump here. You can see this bracket. We remove that. I'll be putting the AC compressor back up over here later when I build some brackets, but in the meantime, just going to get the car going without the AC on it. But I've got a regular mechanical fuel pump bolted on, and I'll show you some tricks I had to do to make it work, and I'm going to show you how we're going to hook up not only a pressure or a suction side, outlet side of the tank. I'm going to actually run a factory style return line back to the back of the car to help circulate the fuel and prevent any hot starting or vapor lock issues with the fuel system here, so it won't deadhead any pressure. Okay, over here on the table I've got 2 small block Chevy factory fuel pumps. This is the one that you're used to seeing on most Chevy small blocks. It's got the line from the tank, and then the threaded fitting there goes up to the carburetor. You see it's just one single line. So you notice here this pump has 2 lines in it. It's got the standard 3/8 line, and it's got a 1/4 inch line on it here, and then the same out to the carburetor. But this is a factory return line to prevent vapor lock. It takes, when you shut the car off, it allows fuel pressure that's up in the fuel line to bleed back to the tank, and it probably circulates it a little bit here to keep fuel pressure, or not fuel pressure, to keep the fuel temperature down by not deadheading the fuel pressure into the carburetors, and allows the fuel to go and circulate back to the tank, which keeps the fuel cool. This pump is for a 400 cubic inch small block application, so like a 74 Chevy Caprice station wagon or anything that had the 400 small block in it would have had this style pump with the return line, and all your other 283 to 350 Chevrolet engines in most cars just had this standard pump without the return line. So since this is a hot rod and it can get warm under the hood, and I've got those 3 carburetors there, you always like to have a return line. I found out with a carburetor, it seems to be the hot setup. I've got some heat vapor issues with my 77 Ford truck I have with a 460 big block, where I run it and it's just got a deadheaded fuel system like the stock pump, and it pumps to the carburetor and then it sits there. You shut it off, the engine heat raises the temperature of the gasoline in the fuel line, and it starts to boil the fuel and push it past the needle and seat in the carburetor, and it actually drips into the engine and floods the engine while it's sitting there warm. Like say I went to a store and shut it off for like 10 minutes, it'll boil the fuel and dump it in the carburetor. Then when I go to start the truck, it's flooded, and I've got to hold my foot down almost to the floor to take that extra gas, and it also dilutes the oil eventually, so I got to keep the oil changed in it. But if you have a return line like this here, or you can get a fuel pump, or you can get a fuel filter with a return line, or you can use a T and an orifice to run a return line back to the tank, it is less of an issue because it circulates the fuel, and excess pressure, when you shut the thing off, the fuel will just drain back to the tank, and any pressure will just bleed back into the tank, so you won't get any vapor lock issues. And this is a factory way, because the 400 small block Chevys run warm. Chevrolet did this stock, so I've got the pump here to put on this car so I can have a return style fuel system right here on the 40 Mercury. Okay, I got the fuel pump mounted up here on the engine, and it's good to go. There's a push rod that runs off the camshaft to run the fuel pump. You always want to put a little bit of grease on the end of the pump you put it together and make sure it doesn't dry fire. So I'm going to show you a fitting that I had to get to make this work, because usually the factory fitting, the line comes out and it swoops up around to the carburetor. But the way this car is laid out, the lower radiator hose goes super tight to the fuel pump and then down into the radiator. And I tried real hard to bind up a 3/8 metal line to come out, but it would run right in this pump or into this hose. So you see this fitting I got down here, it's a 90-degree fitting for a rubber hose. I ordered these online. I think I got them from like Discount Hydraulic Products, but you can find them. It's a 90-degree 3/8 inverted flare to hose bib fitting, or hose barb fitting. And what it does is it's got the correct fitting to fit into the fuel pump, and then I can put a 3/8 hose. So I've cut the short piece of 3/8 hose here, and I'm going to use that to go up the front of the engine. It's not the absolute best thing to do to have rubber fuel line, but I've got some brand new hose. You just want to watch it with the new fuels. I run non-ethanol gas in this car only, 90 octane non-ethanol. But if you run ethanol flavored gas, or if you can't get any that doesn't have ethanol in it, the ethanol will hurt these rubber hoses eventually. So if you ever put rubber hose on your car, you want to be short as possible, and you also want to check it every year if you get the car out, or you want to keep on top of it to make sure the fuel doesn't eat the rubber. But I'm only going to be using this 1-foot piece to make the connection, and I'll be monitoring it every time I check the oil and stuff like that to make sure that it doesn't work. But this is the only workaround I can figure out how to hook that fuel pump up with the lower radiator hose at the angle it is. So I've got one of these fittings here. I'll show you on the other fuel pump how it works. So I got the other fuel pump, and it simply threads right in here, just like a factory brake line fitting would. And you can put it wherever you want. I had to come off at an angle like this to clear the block-off plate on the engine, but so that gives me a simple way to hook up the fuel, and I'll just use that short hose off here with a hose barb, and we should be good to go. And then there'll be a short piece of hose wrapping around. I'm using the nickel copper alloy line to make the fuel lines here, but there we go. I just got that fitting on there, so now I can go back to the engine and hook up the carburetors. So now all I need to do, take my rubber hose and go over here, jam it down onto the fitting until it bottoms out, which I think it has. Yep, I'm using fuel injection style clamps. They clamp real nice on there. And then I'm just going to go up here on the fuel line. I used the brake line fitting flare tool, and I flared the end of this. This is aluminum. I flared the end of the line, and now I can just take and jam the hose up onto here. Like so, and then bring it closer. So here you can see I made the line. I'll move the clamp down, I'll clamp it down here, and then the hose is just going to come up, and it's just going to hook up this fuel line up here. And these lines are hard, so it'll hold this here. I shouldn't need a clamp, but I've just used that one piece of fuel hose, and you can see it's really close to touching this radiator hose, but that's the only way I could do it. So I'll have this line in here. You notice there's no filter here. I'm going to put the filter in the back, so I can protect the pump with the fuel filter. So that'll be back there. I don't really think you need one after the pump, since it's going to be back there protecting everything. Okay, now I got the fuel pump on. I'm back here in the fuel tank again. If you watched the last video on the car here, I used Herculiner, and I used Herculiner truck bed liner material to coat the inside of the trunk. Well, this Mustang tank, somebody put some kind of like black spray on bed liner coating, but they didn't scuff the top of the tank, and it was chipping and peeling off. So I've been here stripping it. I've been using this, what do you call it, pry bar, and it's got a pretty sharp edge on it, and I just got to go along and stripping it. It's been taking a while here. I got probably like 25 minutes into it. But I'm going to strip this all off, and now you see it's all scratched up. That doesn't matter because I'm going to Herculine this too. I'm going to take some 80 grit and sand this, rough it up real good, and then I'm going to take the tank out and I'm going to apply Herculiner to this so it'll match the trunk. I'm just here scraping away. We probably don't need to see that because it's very boring, but I'm going to scrape the rest of this and get some Herculiner on it. Then we'll be running some fuel lines, I think, up the length up to the engine. Okay, it's a couple days later here. I finally got my sending unit in for the tank. It's a nice one, a nice brass float. But the reason I ordered this, like I said, is it's got the vent line here which I can return fuel to the tank. I got this from RPS, Restoration Parts Source out of California. And it was like $33. It's all stainless steel. It's got a brand new pickup screen, obviously. Everything's brand new, so let's go ahead and slap it in the tank. Oh, by the way, I cleaned up the bottom of the tank and painted it flat black. And then... I had sprayed, or I put on Herculiner there, and it seems like some of the cardboard stuck to the Herculiner. Let's see if I can work that out or touch it up, but... as soon as we slap this in, I can go ahead and install the tank in the car. Now, full disclosure, I lost track of this video because I started building my Richfield vintage gas station. It's going to be a storage building with a vintage 1940s looking gas station out front with an overhang, a pump, lubesters, granite curb island for the pump island, and then old-time windows. And then inside the office of the gas station is going to be like a display area for old oil cans and stuff like that. So I've been building on that for a couple days, and I kind of lost track of this Mercury project. But I'm coming back like a week later here to finish this up since I got that sending unit. So stick with me. I'm going to finish the Mercury up here, but I just got my lumber for my building. So if you watch the other video that came out before this, you'll see that I started the site work, and then the video after this is going to be more construction. So I'm really close to getting the Mercury done here. Now I got the fuel tank in. I just got to run the fuel lines up to the fuel pump. I can hook that up and then build a battery box, and I can hook the battery cables up, and then I just got to bleed the brakes, and I can start this thing up and turn it around. So we're really close to get to the end of the Mercury. I know you hot rod guys want to see that, but I got like 3 things going at once here, so we're going to jump around with the videos. But let's go ahead and we'll put the sending unit in and slap the tank in the car. Now to install the sending unit, first I'm going to put a little silicone grease in the groove where the O-ring goes, just to help it slide around and seal a little bit better. This won't hurt anything. Here, I always like to do this. Just help things out a little bit. Now the sending unit goes in like this. Actually, let's see. Yeah, there we go. There's a couple tangs on the bottom of the sending unit that fit into the tank, like that. And then we get a new lock ring and a rubber gasket. Oops, the rubber gasket goes on first. Let's try that again, take 2. Get in there. The grease also helps hold the gasket in place, the O-ring here in the groove. There we go. I'll just get a little screwdriver and I'll just tap this on. There we go, perfect. Locked into place. So now it's all set. Let me flip this over. Here you can see the 3/8 pickup line, so I'll bring the fuel lines off the passenger side. I'll have to loop around, pick this up, and then the return line on the Mustangs. They must have been on the driver's side of the car, but I got my lines on the passenger side. I got the Herculiner there to match. All I gotta do is drill my hole in here for my rubber vent hose. Here's the other side of the tank. You can see the sending unit here. I can bring the fuel lines over onto the center cross member up here, which you probably can't see, and I can come down with some hose and make my connections here. I gotta bring the wire here. I have to extend that, bring that over here for the gauge, and we should be all installed. So bam, that's it for the Mercury for now, but I'm getting one step closer to get this thing going. Hopefully within the next couple of videos, this thing will be running and moving around under its own power. So I'm getting excited about driving it. I know you guys want to see what it sounds like and what it handles and drives like. So I'm getting excited, so come on back for catch the conclusion of the Mercury. Check out the vintage gas station build I'm doing and whatever else I got going on here at the Quick Speed Shop.